up, everybody? It's me, the notorious MJH. Happy Friday to y'all. And tonight, we're here with our co-host, Miller-Brennan, and our guest, Larry Ballard of LibertyCrusade.com and author of Modern Slavery and the Fight for Freedom. And he is here to talk about Washington's hidden agenda and to give everybody some insight on what that's all about and what Washington's hidden agenda is, so that everybody can be aware of this before the election day coming up here in November of 2010. Larry's book is available on Amazon.com, as well as his website, which I mentioned already, is LibertyCrusade.com, along with a lot of background and information. I was very interested in the 9/11 stuff, by the way, Larry. And tonight, we're going to talk about what's going on in Washington, and we just had a brief pre-interview with him, and this sounds pretty interesting. So, Dolly Miller-Brennan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing real good. I'm hanging in there.
You hanging in there?
I'm hanging in there.
Ready for the weekend?
Ready? Oh, am I ready for the weekend? Yeehaw.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a weekend in India. So
I'm glad I'm not in India.
I have to explain it every time I say that. In India, with the technology, like when you call Microsoft, you're actually usually calling India. And Indian IT tech once told me that there's no such thing as a weekend in India. And I thought, what, you guys work 7 days a week? He's like, well, yeah, we do have weekends, though. But it's like, because of the time zones, it's 24 hours, 24 time zones. So wherever you're at in the world, it's always a weekday somewhere if you're in India. But really, if you're in anywhere. So, Larry Ballard, how are you doing?
Hello there.
Hello. You're going to fill us in about Washington's hidden agenda. What is Washington's hidden agenda? Sounds Alex Jones.
Well,
you're not going to tell me the sky is falling and blow up my Twitter, are you?
I'm sorry, say again?
I think you're not going to tell me the sky is falling and blow up my Twitter, are you?
No, but I am going to tell you we've got some issues and we need to pay attention. I think a lot of Americans who've been apathetic about politics are waking up. I think they're scratching their heads because their jobs are in jeopardy, because they may be behind on their mortgages, and they're all going, well, is the administration incompetent, or is there an agenda? Are they doing something to us on purpose? And in my book, I go back 200 years. Why would they do something like that on purpose? Pardon me?
Why would they do something like that on purpose?
Well, it's a hard question to ask, so if it takes too long, stop me. You have to go all the way back to the founding of this country and why we came over here in the first place, to get away from the monarchies in Europe. And what happened is, a story I tell in my book, the book is set 30 years in the future, I'm talking to my grandson, and America's collapsed. And I say, Eric, do you remember the time we played Monopoly and you landed on Park Place, and then the next time you landed on Chance, and it said go to Boardwalk, and you bought Park Place, you bought Boardwalk, you bought all the hotels, and you bankrupted? Well, that's what happened. Basically, the colonial empires, especially England, there was a saying, the sun never sets in the English Empire. They basically had the ships, they went around the world, and they colonized, resource-rich countries around the world, basically had slave labor and free resources, and they controlled all the seaports around the world. They literally got a lock on trade, and they became so wealthy that nobody could stand against them. Well, those nations may not be superpowers anymore, but the money that was accumulated there in that period of time resides within the Rothschilds and the Morgans and the Rockefellers and key families around the world, and they control the World Bank, and they control the central banks of the United States of America. Basically, our Federal Reserve is a private bank owned by international bankers, and they use their money in order to control us. And they have come out and said, in many, many instances, we are against free enterprise. The resources of the world belong to us, and we're going to control them, and we're going to manage them. And we have a huge population of 7 billion people, which they consider to be too large. And so when we hear redistribution coming out of Obama's mouth all the time, it's from his handlers, the international bankers, who are getting us positioned to be willing to live by a substantially lower standard of living if we allow them to do it to us.
Well, now, you know, Larry, one thing I have found interesting in your book, The Economic Tribulation, is in regard to the mortgage industry. So my question to you is, Obama has specifically stated, refinance your mortgage. We're going to help you refinance it. And it appears that there is a great danger in controlling the mortgages of individuals, particularly if they have a 30-year mortgage, and this is one more way to control the lives of those of us living here in the U.S. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, first let me give you some background. God prepared me to write this book. So in reference to that question, I've been an investor in real estate for 30 years, and I've been a licensed broker for 12 years, so I know what I'm talking about. We have to go back, actually, to the Bush administration, and we have to go back even to the Clinton administration. Clinton oversaw the deregulation of the Glass-Steagall Act, which allowed basically the housing bubble that we have now, because basically it allowed banks and securities to come together, which is what allowed the collateralized debt obligations, which is what collapsed the market. Well, most people don't know that our federal government, basically just like they do with immigration, getting in the rights of the states and denying the states to do what they want, did the same thing with the housing market. The governor of Georgia was an ex-banker. He saw the collapse coming 3 years before, passed an anti-predatory lending law. Washington came down on him like a ton of bricks. Several other governors were in the process of passing anti-lending laws, so we could have prevented this. And Bush came out and put the Trump card down and said that is a right of the Fed, not of the states. And there was a letter sent out by all 50 governors, signed by all of them, wanting to have anti-predatory lending laws, and the federal government of the United States nixed it because they wanted this collapse. And to go further now, to come up into the Obama administration, the people don't understand what happens with your mortgage. If you've got a mortgage and you're like the average American and you move every 5 to 7 years, people don't understand that in the first 5 years, 80% of everything you pay in goes to interest. That's why you get those letters all the time, refinance, 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 because if you fall into that trap, you never, ever, ever, ever own your home. And as a matter of fact, we don't own our homes. We used to have something called aodial ownership, which came from the founding of this country at a point in time which if you bought the property, you owned it for life. Now what happened is in the Depression, we changed over to fee simple, and as far as I'm concerned, we're all renters. If you fell behind on your tax payment by a single year, you owed, say, $6,000, you had a house paid for, you were an elderly person, you got senile and you didn't remember to pay your taxes, you could have a $300,000 house paid for, and the government can sell it at a tax lien and not give you a single solitary penny. They sell it for the tax debt, period. So, yes, it's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous, but it's just one of the ways that they're trying to control us.